What's going on, everybody? Rob, aka Robbie Deezle here, and I am fresh from the most magical place on earth. Extra emphasis on the word magical because during my entire stay there, all of my money magically disappeared. The trip itself was practically perfect if you're into turning into a human popsicle and dodging strollers the size of a small car. Disney has magically captured the imagination of children and adults worldwide, and I truly do understand why they call it the most magical place on earth. It makes you forgo all of your worldly wants and needs in favor of consuming the magic within Disney. Now, I myself felt like visiting Disney World was going to feel more like a capitalist fever dream than an actual wonderful vacation. But surprisingly enough, I actually had a pretty good time. So in this video, join me as I relive the worst, best vacation ever. All right, guys, so before we get going on this, there's always a little bit of business to take care of, and that business is making sure that you're subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't yet done so, look down below, make sure that that subscribe icon is grayed out. You've interacted with it. If it's bright red and shiny and beautiful, you're not subbed up to the channel. And why would you not want to when I'm giving you great, wonderful content like this? Of course you do. After you subscribe, make sure you hit that little bell icon right next to it. That turns on your notifications so you get a little noti each and every time that I upload, so you don't miss this stellar video content that I'm providing to you all. So when we arrived in Florida, it was fairly simple. We didn't have any issues with travel. Like, none of our flights got delayed on the way there. None of them got canceled. We arrived at the Orlando airport on time, on schedule. It was super easy to jump into an Uber and shuttle our way to the Walt Disney World Swan Resort, which is one of many Walt Disney World resorts in the general vicinity. Swan is kind of centrally located, so it's usually within like a 10 to 15 minute walk to Epcot, which is, I guess, like the second major park there. But we went and we stayed for 5 days in total. We did 2 days in Magic Kingdom, 1 day at Hollywood Studios, and then the 2 days in between, we just kind of explored. We hit up Disney Springs to see what that was all about. We caught up with some family on our last day in Florida. It was a pretty solid trip. Now, I want to focus on the parks themselves for a little bit, because getting to the parks was actually fairly easier than I expected it to be. The hotels that were in the area provided shuttles to essentially each park that you wanted to go to. But where we stayed, the Walt Disney World Swan Resort, it was actually within 15 minutes walking distance to Hollywood Studios, or to the boardwalk, which takes you to like Epcot, where you have your choice of either jumping on a Skyliner or you can take one of their friendship boats to get to the parks. Now, the parks themselves, each one is massive and sprawling. And as a first timer, I found it really simple to get turned around. More so at Magic Kingdom than at Hollywood Studios. Magic Kingdom, you kind of just had to find your way around. Whereas with Hollywood Studios, they actually had signs pointing you in the direction of each major attraction, which I found wildly helpful. Now, they do have maps on site, but if you are terrible at reading maps like I can, like I can be at times, the maps aren't the most helpful outside of identifying like major landmarks along the way. I'm thankful that we chose to spend 2 days in Magic Kingdom, because it literally took that long to get used to the layout. Just when I thought I had it figured out, I would take a wrong turn, or I would get confused and think that one attraction was on one side of the park when in reality it was on another side. Lots and lots to take in. If you're planning a trip to go to Disney soon, I would advise trying to jump online and take a look at the maps, or you can do like my wife and I did and watch a ton of DFB videos. DFB, Disney Food Blogs, they saved our lives. Not only directionally in terms of knowing what kind of attractions were at the different parks, but also because we watched so many of their videos, it actually prepared us for what to expect for getting around at the parks, food and food prices, what parks had what restaurants. Like, they were wildly helpful. So I'll throw a link down to that YouTube channel below. Highly suggest checking it out if you're planning a trip to Disney World anytime soon. Now, let's talk about the title of this video. I went to Disney World and I hated it. Honestly, I didn't really hate it, if you can't tell by now. I did, however, hate the weather. Florida in July is so ridiculously hot. It was so hot in Florida, my sweat had sweat. The humidity in the air was so thick, I actually tried to flirt with it. Outside of the popsicles and the ice cream, the only thing melting faster in that Florida heat was my will to live. Now, not only was it hot, but you guys know, if you've caught any videos from this channel, I fashioned myself a sneakerhead, and I made the biggest mistake of wearing uncomfortable shoes to walk around in at Disney. That is a cardinal sin, because you will be walking and you will be standing for a very long time. So here lies my first pro tip. If you're going to Disney, dress really cool and wear really comfortable sneakers. Yes, sneakers, not sandals, not slides, not foam runners, sneakers. Get you some comfy shoes, because unless you do what we did for majority of the rides, you will again be both walking and standing quite a bit. Now, the day that we arrived, Disney had just debuted their replacement for the Genie Plus, or the Fast Pass option, which is called Lightning Lane. Now, Lightning Lane allows you to purchase either single or multi-passes, and those prices will vary depending on the day that you go and the attraction that you're trying to see. The multi-pass option is the one that we went with, and it lets you choose up to 3 rides or attractions on each day that you visit. So to break it down, we had 3 rides for Magic Kingdom on the 2 days that we went, and then 3 rides for Hollywood Studios on the 1 day that we went. Now, the cool thing about Lightning Lane specifically is if you're staying at a Disney resort, you can actually pre-plan your attractions up to 7 days before you actually arrive. All other guests can plan their trips or their attractions through Lightning Lane up to 3 days ahead of time. So again, we went with the multi-lane option, and we spread it across each day that we spent at the park. So 3 rides on day 1, 3 rides on day 2, 3 rides on day 3. And I am so damn glad that we did. The multi-lane passes saved us an insane amount of time, and with them, we ended up spending on average about 15 minutes in each ride line. Now, if you know anything about Disney, you know that there are special attractions there. Things like Space Mountain, things like the Seven Dwarfs Minecart ride, Big Thunder Mountain. Those are all really popular rides. And on any given day, you could see the standby line typically average about 50 to 70 minutes in wait time. So you're going to be in line for a very long time without those Lightning Lane passes. Now, the cool thing, and I'm not sure if this is something that just happened to us because we just so happened to have the Lightning Lane passes on the day that it debuted, but after we completed our final ride for the day, we got an alert from the World of Disney app that said, hey, check your Lightning Lane passes. You could have additional ride options. So we actually were able to feng shui each day that we went to each park an additional ride. So it was my wife, myself, and the boy, Junior, And so my wife and me were listed as the adults or the administrators on the account. So she would actually end up with a bonus ride, and then I would end up with a bonus ride, which, drum roll please, racked our total up to 5 lightning lane passes per day, which was awesome. So we ended up saving a lot of time. Now, I understand planning a trip to Disney in and of itself can be quite the undertaking, especially financially. So I'm not going to tell you to get something if you can't afford it, but if you can, if you have the extra shillings, if you save up enough, the lightning lane is more than worth it if you plan on riding any rides at all. Trust me, you don't want to not get it if you can. Now, the one thing that I did miss out on that I wish was a possibility within the Disney app is there is no option to sync your rides or your lightning lane passes or any other event that you would like to attend to an external calendar. So you can't sync it to iCal or you can't sync it to Google Calendar, which would be an absolute godsend. Now, yes, Disney does have its own app that allows you to get in and check your itinerary every single few hours or minutes or what have you. I know it's not that difficult to open the Disney app, but I like convenience. I am a techie and I want my convenient applications, damn it. And it seems like just a big missed opportunity to be able to, especially with my family in particular, we use a shared calendar. So hypothetically, if we did want to kind of go off and sightsee on our own, being able to sync it through a calendar would allow us to keep better track of our day. So we ended up having, not that it's a big deal at all, we ended up having to kind of stick together so we made sure that we hit our rides on time. So Disney, if it matters to you from a very, very small, minuscule portion of your fan base, please add that functionality to the app. It would be so helpful to be able to sync itineraries, rides, the whole shot to an external calendar. Please. All right, so being a first timer to Walt Disney World, I, of course, had to visit Galaxy's Edge. So we're going to talk about that for a second because I just... My God. If you're a fan of Star Wars, you have to visit Galaxy's Edge. It is a part of Disney World carved out specifically to experience all of the lore, the thrills, and it feels like you're dropped right into a movie from the Star Wars universe. Now, our first major thing that we did when we got to Galaxy's Edge is we hit up Olga's Cantina, which is designed to look like a bar from the Star Wars world. Yes, it feels like you're on Tatooine and you're enjoying some of the most delectable space treats known to man. And I loved the menu here because it really did give you some otherworldly treats. Like we got this veggie chip tray that had all sorts of unique tastes and flavors. It genuinely did not feel like Earth food, if that makes any sense. I got a drink called the Fuzzy Tauntaun, which was awesome because it had this foam at the top that would actually make your lips tingle. The young lady that was next to me was actually weirded out because she wasn't expecting her lips to tingle. Mine lasted legit like half of the day. Our bartender jokingly said, it'll wear off in about 4-5 hours. And I thought he was joking, but no. Like I drank a Powerade later on in the day and it reactivated the tingles, which was super weird. But the drink itself was very good. The atmosphere was awesome. It was packed because they kind of just jam everybody in. And if you want something that's going to give you a more intimate, more personal experience, Olga's Cantina is not that. We were at a standing table. We were shoulder to shoulder with other guests. There's not very much room. It's kind of dim and dark in there for the atmosphere. And it's designed to get people in and out. Like it is very much a snack and experience bar only. So don't plan a meal around Oga's Cantina because you will be severely disappointed if you do. Now, outside of Oga's Cantina, of course, there's tons of different experiences, tons of rides. We did Smuggler's Run and we did Star Tours, both of which excellent. Drops you right into, again, a Star Wars themed universe. Smuggler's Run was probably my favorite, just solely because it forces you to work with strangers, essentially. So when we got in, it was my wife was a pilot with another gentleman. My son and I got to be the gunners, so we had our own special mission. And then there's another duo behind us that played the role of engineers. Now, I don't want to give away the plot of this ride, but it definitely forces you to work together. Each separate layer has to work together and then collectively as a unit. It is so much fun. And if you're going to go to Galaxy's Edge and if you're going to get on a ride, Smuggler's Run, highly recommend it. I absolutely loved it. Galaxy's Edge as a whole was a fantastic experience. And honestly, I wish we would have spent a little more time in there just enjoying the rides. But there's always next time, right? So let's talk about the food for a second, because I mentioned meals. There are so many different options scattered around the park, and it doesn't matter what your dietary needs are, what your tastes are. Surprisingly, Disney World has something for everybody. If you're a straight carnivore, best of luck to you finding one place to eat at, because there are so many that will completely satisfy your dietary needs. I wanted to try one of the giant turkey legs myself, but I couldn't bring myself to it, solely because there were so many other options around. If you are vegan, or if you are vegetarian, or if you are pescatarian, there are options at nearly every single restaurant for you. So you can go into a trip at Disney knowing that if you are eating in the parks themselves, there is something for every type of diet. Now, with that being said, the food, the dining choices was possibly my second biggest love/hate scenario, compared to the weather, at least. Now, I had some pretty epic meals when it came to park food. And for the most part, everything was delicious. But when I had a rare, and there was only a few, but when it missed, man, it was a big miss. Very disappointing, especially when you consider how much you're paying for these meals. Now, all things considered, if you have it budgeted out, theoretically, you could just DoorDash a meal to your hotel if you're staying on site. And honestly, it would probably end up being the same price as what it costs to eat in the park, which is rare. Most times, DoorDash is like through the roof compared to just going to the restaurant or ordering directly from the restaurant. But in my experience, DoorDash prices were either the same as or sometimes less than eating for three during our time there. Which brings me to my third pro tip: plan your meals. If you are going to eat at the park, again, hit up those DFB videos, spend some time online figuring out what restaurants are higher rated, and of course, have a food budget, because it is very easy to break the bank buying food at the parks. Now, my personal favorites, of course, we did have some delicious vegan hot dogs at Casey's in Magic Kingdom, and then the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater at Hollywood Studios, and then Fairfax Fairway in Hollywood Studios as well. My favorite, my top three meals the entire time there, for the price, for the portion, and of course for the food itself. Can't beat it, especially those protein bowls at Fairfax Fairway. Top notch. So, all in all, honestly, I was very satisfied with my very first trip to Disney. Now, even though I wasn't the happiest with the cost of most things, I realized that Disney is a massive conglomerate, and the cost of things probably isn't going to change anytime soon. The lightning lane passes honestly were a godsend. They were the best part about being able to jump around on several different rides. And I honestly think without purchasing the lightning lanes, our experience at Disney World would have been wildly different. Now, part of me thinks that across those 5 days, maybe we should have added Epcot or maybe we should have added Animal Kingdom just to toss in some variety. But I was pretty satisfied with the trip overall. I honestly loved it, opposite of hated. And as for Epcot and Animal Kingdom, well, I guess we'll just have to visit those next time. Thank you guys so very much for checking out this video. I hope you find some use out of it. If you do, make sure that you leave me a comment down below. Let me know how your experience was. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get more videos just like this one. And hit that bell icon so you turn on notifications to get a little noti every single time that I upload. Tons of helpful guides and how-tos and just genuine consumer reviews from a regular dude that likes cool stuff. You can follow me over on social media via @Robbie Deezle virtually everywhere on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, the whole interwebs. I am there. Thank you guys so very much for checking this one out. I am Rob, aka Robbie Deezle, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace.